This is the World Satsanga on the 25th of May 2013. Okay, so we'll continue then. Yeah, right now with John Marshall's currently in Belgium teaching. Joe Meebu's still on the US mainland enjoying his month with a massive family holiday. It's about a month, so he's currently in Florida, so he can't get himself to a computer. And we've got Alan and Meryl and Lucy, who normally have a satsanga of their own on Thursday, the fourth Thursday of the month. But because it's a moon solstice or something, they've had to hold it today rather than Thursday because this is the solstice day. I don't fully understand what they're doing, but they would have just finished round about now doing what they're doing. So Alan couldn't get back in time for this. So he's going to catch up via the recording later. Okay. So I think Chris has just come back online again. Good. Okay. Okay, so Chris is back online again. Good. So the new call on hold. What's going on there? Chris, I'll have to turn you off, mate. There's something going on here. Okay. Okay. Are you all there? Suddenly lost you all. Oh, this is ridiculous. Vision call. Okay. No, it's okay. I think we had a little bit of a problem there with Chris coming back online. It knocked everybody else out. So, right then, as the new member, Itzo, do you want to explain a little bit about your spiritual background and how you got involved with spiritualism and where you're going now?
Sure, guys. Well, first, hello everybody. My name is Satsanga. I'm based in Slovenia. My spiritual development, I guess, it went in spirals in the last few decades. And the first time I remembered I was aware of the spiritual life, that was in the year 1987. And many years later, I found out that was the year of the harmonic convergence, which I found then, to be interesting. Mm-hmm. But I would say it really went like a spiral with periods of flat or no growth, and then periods of the rapid growth. So that's how I view it, actually. And I'm not sure at this point, Guy, what else should I say here? Hi, Guy.
Oh, Chris, back online again. Good. I think that's good enough, actually, Itzo. Okay. I mean, basically, most people get involved with spiritualism or metaphysics through various different angles, various different routes in, and that's fine. There's no hard and tried and tested real route into it. It's how it affects us and how we work with it, and where we get to, which is important. Okay, so it's great to have you online. I say that Mo Stevens, who's based in New Zealand, would have joined us. I think she's not quite gripped the fact that it was today, which to be honest, she's not quite understood Skype anyway, to be fair. So although she's got a Skype account, it'll probably she'll come online next time. It was a bit too short notice for her, because over there now it's about 8 in the morning as well. So it would have been a bit hard for us to sort of get up and sort everything else out and understand it. Okay, well, what I want to do today is I've actually got quite a long questions and answers session, but if we do dry up on that, I'm going to send people a photograph of a presentation, a very impromptu presentation, if we get that far, that I did when I was still doing the Indian Traversing the Frequencies workshop, because we talked about intention and what the process of intention is. But I'm going to leave that till later to see just to see if we need to fill in the gap, because what I've done is I've actually got quite a long session for questions and answers, because I'm quite aware that we are listening to me talk a lot, and there's not much time at the end of the session for asking some burning questions that may well be answered by the source. So I've got that towards the end. Then I'm going to do an end of meet meditation where we're going to experience the source as well, above and beyond that which we've previously experienced as part of traversing the frequencies, for those of you who've done that. But prior to all of that, right now I'm going to talk about reflectivity. And reflectivity is a rather interesting subject, because it's all about how we perceive others around us, and the underlying perception of others is based upon that which we don't particularly like about ourselves. So when we look at somebody, or when we work with somebody and we have a distaste of something that they do, or we get annoyed with something that they do, in essence we really do take exception to those individuals, and we you know, if we're not careful, we go out of our way to make a point about that which they're doing that we don't like, and that can cause all sorts of aggressive problems and responses. But the thing is, people around us do in fact reflect an aspect of ourselves that we don't particularly like. And by that I mean it's something that we need to work on. Some part of ourselves which is still immature, still ununderstood, and needs to be fleshed out and finalised as a result of our personal progression whilst we're on the earth. Now, classic examples of that are little habits that people do, the way people say things. If you're at work, for instance, you're in a meeting and somebody always talks over your head, or totally negates what you've just said, or repeats exactly what you've just said, but says it in a way that it comes across as being their idea rather than yours, and then they steal your thunder. So it's all about seeing those little aspects of what we are in others, because people reflect back to us what we are. And actually it's quite a useful tool, provided we understand it and we can work with it and we recognise that it is a useful tool, to be able to see our own areas for self-development in front of our very eyes, projected or reflected by those individuals who we very likely have a dislike of for whatever reason, without fully understanding why we dislike them, but nevertheless are giving us an opportunity for our own self-development, because they are doing exactly what we don't like in ourselves, but don't give ourselves the opportunity to see. Now, does anybody have any examples of where they know somebody that they actually dislike or even actively hate for whatever reason, and then when you step back at it and you look at it, you think, well, hang about, that person is actually reflecting some part of my own personality, some part of my own functionality that is, you know, an area that I need to work on, or an area that I don't particularly like to discuss or work with, because I personally find it abhorrent within myself. Does anybody have any examples of that?
All the time.
All the
Time for me. I'm working with a new student right now, and she's a reflection of who I was 10 years ago. And it's like, oh, yeah, be nice, be gentle, and help her grow, because I was as annoying as she is now, and it's funny that it's a reflection, maybe not where you currently are, but certainly, and I have tons more, but all the time, that's all I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how many of us look at somebody and very jokingly say, you know, you remind me of me 10 years ago? Those sort of comments sneak out on us once in a while, because they are they're the telltale signs that that there is an aspect of that person who is reflecting what we are. Now, when we say those words, you remind me of me 10 years ago, and we have a smile on our face, it's because there's an aspect of them that we were then that we actually quite like. we understand that we were a bit bullish, for instance, we were a bit naive, full of energy, but lacking in maturity. And we recognise that as being an interesting time where we had no fear about anything, and we just went and did it without any thought process behind it at all. and so therefore there are parts of us that we actually quite like, and therefore they're also reflected to us as well. But we tend to negate the aspects that we don't like, and then we reflect them back on that individual because we don't see them in ourselves. So we enjoy those parts of us that we enjoy within ourselves, or we enjoyed within our certain lifetime epochs, as it were. But when it comes down to understanding it, we actually leave it alone. Now, I think Mo's online. Let's try and pull it in actually. So I can pull Mo in online right now. I think I managed to do it. I think so. Okay. If she comes in. Don't know. Okay. So just a very quick question. Mo, are you online at all? Can you hear us? No, don't know. Can't hear. Anyway, she's pulled it. She's pulled it anyway. Matthias, I think you've got your microphone on. If you can put it onto mute, it'd be great. Fantastic. So,
Guy?
Yeah.
Does it not work in the positive as well as the negative?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. When we have a smile on our face and we reflect on people who are around us who do remind us of some of the things we actually like about ourselves, we do enjoy it actually. We sort of we have a little snigger to ourselves, and we think that this person was what I was then, and we do say in jest, you remind me of what I was 15 years ago, or 30 years ago in some instances. So it does work positively from that perspective, where we see something that we actually don't have a problem with about ourselves. But in terms of the positive stuff, really, really positive stuff, we do, in essence, we do tend to negate the really positive side. So really, we don't really give ourselves the opportunity to look at the positive aspect. It makes sense. So the positive side is something we should be working with, but it's really is a case of we don't recognise the really positive aspects because we focus on the negative stuff. That's a good point, that is, Jane. Thank you. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that at all?
Guy, I have a question, actually.
Yes, it's
So, in my life, I also tend to experience these kinds of situations all the time, as somebody already said. And when it's positive, it's just great, obviously. But when it's negative, what can you do? I mean, you can look at your mirror for years, right? What's the good way out of it?
What's the good way out of it? Really is to stand back a long way and look at these people who are reflecting back to us what we don't like about ourselves, what we find abhorrent about ourselves, and give ourselves the opportunity to actually forgive ourselves first for being for not really working with that person properly, for rejecting them based upon them reflecting back to us what we are, but also then realise that they are only reflecting back based upon the fact that we don't like an aspect of ourselves, and therefore shove it under the carpet. So we really need to forgive ourselves and forgive them as well. And then we can move on with this, looking at ourselves from, from a certain distance. Using something that is called the observer self, which is a technique that was invented by Susan and Donovan Satsanga many years ago on their Pathwork series of self-development workshops, where we actually stop ourselves from being in the moment and place our consciousness outside of that moment as an observer rather than ourselves. And that in that way, we can really start to observe that which is going on around us. Now, in that respect, we do start to see the bigger picture. We do start to see what is us in that person, and therefore what within that person is something that we don't like about ourselves. Because unless we do use this observer self tool, we will always be in it, in that moment, and not be able to stand back and separate ourselves from that moment, and therefore be stuck in it and not able to use the opportunity to progress ourselves and learn. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions at all, or any comments on that?
Guy, is this related to the blog you did a few weeks ago?
Yes.
Talking about abhorring people.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit towards that. Yes. Yeah.
Right, I'm going to say, because it's a very strong word, abhor, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we do actually. we do. Yeah. It's a strong word, but it's right. When we look at somebody and they're doing something that we don't like, and then we find out later it's something we don't like about ourselves, it is self-hate, basically, without doubt. But the learning opportunity there is to recognise that we are self-hating ourselves, and that the individual who's reflecting it back on us is giving us an opportunity to correct that situation. Although we don't, unless we use the observer self philosophy, we don't see that at all. All we see is this person we don't like, and we shy away from that part of ourselves that we don't like within ourselves as well. It's very difficult for us to take on board our own failings and work with those. We don't do it. We are very shy, for want of a better word, in working on ourselves, because it's digging in the dirt. You know, I mean, it is something which is very difficult to do. And I can remember when I did my healing course with my healing teacher, Helen, and we had to go through the Pathwork series, and we really, in those days, the frequencies weren't where they are now, which is useful because we don't need to go that deep. But we had to really go into ourselves and dig out all the rubbish and expose the rubbish, and not only expose the rubbish, but expose and explain it to the whole group as well. So it was really quite difficult to do, and quite hard on the individual. I mean, I don't think there was any one of us who didn't end up in tears at some point, but that was the point. We needed to get to that point where we were in tears to be able to move onwards. Chris has just asked a question. How are we taught to self-hate? Is it the ego's work or the upbringing? Very good question. It's a cumulative effect. It's something where we have an ideal of what we should be and what we are, and we work on that ideal subliminally, and as a result of that we only go down that route, that sort of personal perfection route. In some respects it is ego, because the ego won't let us dive into those areas where it exposes the ego for what it is. So the ego will only give us the good news, as it were. It's bolstering itself. That's what the ego does. So really it is something that we create ourselves as against our upbringing or that which we've been exposed to during our earlier years, although some of it can be initially in terms of how it kicks off. Any other questions on that?
Guy, I have another question.
Yeah, sure.
would you say that in all instances when you find yourself at that utter frustration with another human being, that it is a reflection, or is it also a combination of a reflection and possibly preparation for something that you need to work on? Or are those the same thing?
Yes, it's the same thing initially, although while you were saying that, I was logging into a deeper aspect of it, and I'm going to make sure I'll get a grip of what it is now, because it's slipping away fast. But really, it's about in terms of preparation. It's also about being patient as well, about seeing something we don't like, or working with somebody who's struggling to keep up with us, and being patient with them. When we're patient and calm, we give ourselves that 10 seconds head start before we start to respond and react. And in that 10 seconds, we can make an awful lot of headway in terms of understanding what is affecting us and how we can respond to it. Now, clearly, answering instantaneously doesn't give us that buffer that we can work with. So we do generally respond on a reactionary basis, so we don't give ourselves that 10-second gap, for instance. So we don't give ourselves a chance to prepare. But there are opportunities to prepare, and there are opportunities to stand back and reflect. But you know, it's a mixture of both, though, to be honest, Marnie, because it's very, very, very insidious in how it operates. It's not a case of, you know, we can pinpoint it in one go. It's almost a case of sometimes we need to look underneath the smallest stones to see what's caused that which we're affected by, before we can move onwards. And so we are given an opportunity to prepare, but if we haven't prepared and we've ignored that preparation, then the level of reaction to a person that's reflecting back to us what we don't like about ourselves, or what we don't like about something we do, actually gets amplified, and then it becomes, you know, quite distinct in its function, leading up to, I'll use these words very guardedly, you know, real hate, because then there's no higher understanding of what's being experienced from an emotional content perspective. Okay. Does that answer the question, Marnie?
Yes, I think so.
You think
More
so?
to think about.
Yeah, it's not an easy subject, which is why I've pulled it up, because it's something that we ignore on a daily basis. With, you know, literally every person we put in contact with has an opportunity to reflect back to us that which is either a positive, a negative, or an opportunity for experiencing and learning as a result of it. So it is quite a difficult thing to get one's head around. Definitely.
I guess my first feeling is that when I have difficult interactions with another human being, I do tend to think, what is it about me that's having a problem with this? And go, I don't ever always find it, but that's where my first search is.
Yeah.
Is that why is this triggering some kind of an emotional response in me, and what can I do to not have that again?
Yeah, and to be honest, the number of individuals who go through that thought process like you're going through is extremely small. You know, I mean, everybody gets caught out with this, so we don't. It's not a case of, you know, we can always be in that level of reflectivity, with, you know, in terms of our own personal reflection of what's going on around us. We do get caught out every now and then, but in general, most people don't even go anywhere near that level of personal searching or personal coaching, as it were, to try and work out why there is a level of dislike about a person and what they're doing, and, you know, and whether it might actually be reflecting back something we need to work on ourselves. Nobody gets, there's a, yeah. I would guess that 99.99 recurring % of the population of the Earth don't go there because it's just too hard, and that includes so-called higher frequency individuals as well, spiritual individuals, because it's being in the observer self mode all of the time is a very hard thing to do, and unless we get into the point where it becomes second nature, we'll always be caught out or miss something or react in an adverse way as a result of what's being reflected back to us. Okay. So Jane, Fiona, do you have any questions on this or comments?
No, but it's interesting.
It's interesting. Thank you. Matthias? Oops. I thought Matthias had dropped his computer there. You okay, Matthias, or no, okay. Itzo, any questions on that? No.
No, thank you, guys.
Okay. Okay, well, unless anybody wants to ask any questions on any other subject, and please feel free to do so. I've got I'm about to send another email out to people, which you need to pick up, to look at the opportunity for understanding what intention means. Okay. So does anybody have any other questions from any other complete angle at all?
I do, Guy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's a bit extreme, my question, but for example, I don't particularly want to use this as an example, but you know, someone commits a crime and it's pretty horrendous, and you find that distasteful, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
How does that reflect something back to you that you find, I guess,
Ooh.
in terms of what you've been talking about?
Okay. I think that's a different angle, totally different angle, Fiona.
I was wondering the same as well.
Yeah. You see, that's a different thing, because what we've got now is an action that is a criminal action that we don't like, and the reason why we don't like it is because we have an inbuilt level of, should I say, law-abidingness, as it were, where we know what is right and what is wrong, and we also know what is universally right and wrong. Because when we do some things sometimes, and we know we're being cheeky, for instance, then we do feel that we are being cheeky and we are bending the rules, and so we have to make sure that we're not seeing something as being a criminal thing, as being some reflection back to us. Now, in the instance of seeing somebody doing a criminal act and not liking it, clearly we know that they are not following A, the law of the land, or B, the universal law of only doing that which is right. You know, it's the old saying of, you know, do unto others as you have done unto you. But in terms of reflectivity, if we found it acceptable that criminal act was being done, and we were in a mindset where we could stand back and observe that level of acceptability, then we might want to investigate within ourselves why we find that criminal act acceptable as against unacceptable. So what part of us is in a similar mindset to the criminal? What part of ourselves we find happy when we are doing something which is incorrect or not right or outside of the law? I mean, we all do little things that are, you know, if we were honest, we've broken the rules somewhere. But when it comes to fully understanding it and finding out whether we find it acceptable or not, then we start to recognise that in terms of reflectivity, we see a level of acceptance of that level of activity, and therefore we can, in some respects, realise that we are not quite as pure as we thought, if that makes sense.
So guys, does that then mean then, for example, if you're, say, in a work situation and somebody does something to someone else and you find that unacceptable, is it again that sort of where you were saying, you know, we're kind of like hardwired not to do certain things? Does that also come into it? So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that you find distasteful about something that's been, it's not something that's been reflected back at you, it's just something that kind of, I guess, goes against our hardwiring.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So we're looking at two things, kind of like, say, in a work environment, something that could be reflected back to you that you know, that you need to take note of, or it's something that goes against the universal, I don't know, let's say balance or fairness or something along those lines.
Yeah, it is two things, and one of them is definitely recognising that which we find doesn't follow the universal law, if you want to call it that, of doing good versus bad. Although there is no good and bad, it's just doing that which we do. But when we inherently know that something is not, or shouldn't be done in that particular way, then we know that we couldn't do it ourselves. But when we find something that's out there that somebody's doing, and we find it acceptable, then we need to stand back and say, well, actually, if we find it acceptable within ourselves when we're observing this, then we could probably do it ourselves. And what's more, we will be breaking, certain local laws and ultimately a universal law. So one is a case of recognising good from bad, as it were, and maintaining that level of understanding. Whereas on the other side of the fence, it's about giving ourselves the opportunity to recalibrate and turn that which we think is acceptable into that which we think isn't acceptable, because it's actually going to be detrimental to somebody or something at some point in the future, or in that current moment. So Matches has got a. Does that answer the question, Fiona? Before I move on.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So Matches has asked a question. He says, one question: why are we sometimes so strongly pulled away from something we know we need to do? Oh, that's a good question. Well, the instant response that I've picked up is that it's not the right time to do it. We're not in a situation where we can respond well enough, which is the information I've just picked up from the greater reality. It's almost as if we did it now, the doors wouldn't be open. If we did it later with a bit more knowledge, the doors would be open. It's having things at the right time. I mean, how many of you have experienced something where you've got the feeling to do something and you've done it, and it's been really hard work, but about a day later something else comes along, and if you'd have waited that day, it would have been easy. That's the sort of thing. That's what happens. We're given a nudge by our guide and helpers to not react right now, but to give ourselves the opportunity, in some instances those 10 seconds or a bit longer, to make ourselves more prepared and respond in a more complete and robust and efficient way as a result of that. Does that answer the question, Matches? I think Matches has got a microphone problem. Yeah, I think you got a microphone problem, Matches. We'll say, I'll take it as yes based on that. Yeah, I mean, Marnie's commented as well. Oh yeah, well done. Yeah, Marnie's responded saying, "Amen, Matches. I feel that problem daily." Yeah, it's not the right time to do it. We could have responded, but we wouldn't have responded in the best way. in the most complete way that would solve that particular problem, or have responded in a particular way we needed to, in a way that would have finished the issue. Whereas if we waited a bit longer, we'll become a bit more prepared. It's a bit like understanding that if we get to a door and we turn the knob, or we get hold of the handle and rotate it, we can't go through the door. So we try to so we know we've got to go through that door, and because we know we've got to go through that door but we can't open it, we break it down. If we'd have waited 2 hours or a day, and somebody came along with a key, we could have opened the door and walked through easily. It's a bit like that, where we've got the opportunity to move forwards, but actually it's not the right time because we haven't got the right tools around us to do it in a seamless way, in an easy way, in a way which we're going to understand and progress and develop ourselves in the process as well. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions on any subject matter? Okay. Right. Well, for the next, I'm just going to show something very quickly. I want to send this email out, if I can find it, to you all. Okay. Which, if you've got a chance to read it, you can. So, you should have received it now. Mo's actually online, but she's got a microphone problem as well, so she's listening in and representing the New Zealand aspect of the world. So thank you, Mo. If you can, thank you very much for that. So I've just sent this email out with an image on there from the website from an impromptu lecture I gave as part of the workshop I did in Bangalore, and it's all about using our intention. Now, clearly we can go over this again next time because it can be quite a big subject. But in essence, if we look at it from the perspective of using our intention, we go through a process. When we do something, we act upon it, basically, and we think that intention, that action, is us responding to something. But really, we do sometimes think about these things, and we think, oh, well, I've thought about this, so I'm going to act. But prior to the thought process, there is the intention to do it, which is interesting. So what we've got is a basic function, a process where we go through the intention to do something, we think about it, and then we go through the action. At the end of the day, the action might be a creative action, might be a responsive action. But in essence, we go through that function, that basic function of intention, thought, and action. Now, we can't go from thought to action directly unless we've gone through intention and thought first. We can't go from intention directly to action because we need to go through the thought process. We can go backwards, we can go from thought to intention, because if we do that, we intend to use intention, and then therefore we go back into the loop again. So we go from thought to intention, back to thought, then back to action. But we can also go into, we can get ourselves frustrated as well by going from thought to thought to thought, where there's no action and no intention, and we just keep going in a circle there. And what happens then is we create a cycle where we go from thought to inaction, to frustration, to deliberation, and back to thought again, back to more inaction, more frustration, and more deliberation, and more thought. And we're not actually moving forwards because we've not got the intention to move forwards. We're just going in this thought loop where we're stuck. Now, the only way we can break out of that is if we go from deliberation back into intention, and then onto thought and action as a result of that. So when we are working with anything that we're doing, we're only successful in acting out that which we want to do, whether it's a communication with somebody, whether it's something physical we've got to do, whether it's anything associated with helping somebody. It only ever works if we've used our intention to do it. And the intention to do it is sometimes not particularly visible to ourselves, because we do think that we're doing these things sometimes. But the intention is there if it's if it's almost reactionary. I mean, a good example is that if somebody throws you a ball, your hand will project itself forwards and catch that ball. Now, you haven't just reacted there, you've had the intention to act upon the ball that's coming towards you. What happens is the intention is there, but the thought process is so slight, so small, that we go straight into action. So we don't actually, although we don't negate the intention, thought, action process, we do very, very quickly go through the thought process, but only in terms of, there is the ball coming through the air, rather than I'm going to step back, put my hand up and catch it. that would be too slow. So we do need to. So there is an element of, shall I say, speed of progression through the intention, through thoughts to action, to make it work in a reactionary sense. Now, intention is something we don't think about. We don't even talk about half of the time. Although a lot of spiritual people will talk about it. It's our intention to be creative. It's our intention to progress ourselves, to develop ourselves. It's our intention to do this. But most people use those words without understanding the process that needs to go through it, progress from there, which is the thought and then the action. If we asked anybody what they did before they acted, they would ultimately say they would think it through, which is the thought aspect. But before them, there's the intention to think it through, which is the most important part of it. So intention is always there in every aspect. Anybody got any questions on that at all? And I hope you all picked up the link, by the way. So.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Chris.
So the longer you think about it, the better the result.
Provided you've got the intention to think about it, yes. I mean, clearly thinking too much is an incarnate problem, and we can actually think ourselves out of acting. So, if we do think too hard or too long on something, we can stop ourselves from acting. Now, clearly there are times when we need to do that, because it may not be the optimal thing to do, to react to a particular action or function that's happening around us. It may well be that the action is that we don't react, we don't act. So the intention is to think about it and then come to a decision at the end of that, and then maybe not act. And not acting is an action in its own right. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on that? I'll send this if it hasn't caught up with you, this email. I can send it out with the recording as well, and I'll send it out with the blog.
I have a quick question, Guy.
Yeah, sure.
I'm really struggling to get my head around intention versus thought. How do you, to me, I think of intention as more of the higher consciousness patterns of thought, but I can't figure out how to define intention different from thought.
Yeah. Well, the intention is a higher function, without doubt, and it is something that we use when we're in the purely energetic. But because we're earthbound, we do relate ourselves to our thoughts. From time immemorial, philosophers have said, "I think, therefore I am," which is negating the intention to think, therefore I am. If that helps a little bit. But the thing is that without the intention to think, we won't think. So it's almost like we're educated to a certain point, but we don't understand what the basics are that get us to that certain point in the first place. It's a bit like seeing a house built from the foundations upwards, but not seeing the foundations being created for that house. So we don't see the earth dug out, the concrete filled in, or any reinforcement put in there at the same time. So it's we don't see the start point at all. We just see the house being built, and that's a bit like that. Okay, Jane was about to say something then. I spotted. Okay, thank you, Marnie. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Marnie? Because it is quite high level. The intention side of it is quite high level.
It does, and it's just a lot for me to think about. So I have to intend to think about it.
Very good answer. I'll, if you haven't picked it up via your emails now, I'll send it across with the blog as well, so it's there for you all. Okay. If there's no other questions right now, we can move on to the meditation, because it's now 10 to 10 this side of the world, which means we've only got 10 minutes apparently. So does anybody else have any questions on this or any other subject? Other than that, we'll go straight into meditation. Okay. Right, so we go straight into meditation in that case. So we're going to use the method that we've always used, and we'll go through it anyway. I'll talk us through it anyway. For Mo, this will be the first time, and for Itzo, it'll be the first time as well. So, in effect, I want you to get yourself in your chair. If you've got a straight-backed chair, then use that. If not, then try to sit upright if you can, with your back straight and your feet firmly on the ground. And just close your eyes, and with your closed eye vision, focus on the area of the third eye, which is in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And if you want to put your palms uppermost on your thighs, that's fine as well. So, as with previous meditations, just imagine yourself walking towards a door, and you open the door, and in that door is a white room with me sitting on a chair in the middle of that white room, and a whole group of chairs there waiting to be taken, one of those by you and one by the other group members. But just grab a chair and put it down by the side of me, and you can take my right hand with your left hand, or my left hand with your right hand, just so that you're linked in with me. And if you all imagine you're walking into that room and taking a chair and sitting down by the side of me and holding one of my hands, and I can feel people are connecting already. That's good. And we're just going to just stabilise a moment while we're all connected through me within the room. I've got Marnie, I've got Jane, now Chessie's there, yes, Mo's there as well. It's and Chris, good, and Fiona. Right, we're all there. And I've even got a few people who are joining us by the recording as well. Now, isn't that interesting, how event space works? So, just imagine that you're rising up out of the chair, floating up through the ceiling, and as you look down you can start to see the building that you're in disappear below your feet. You climb higher and higher. You start to see the suburbs around where your house is. As you go higher, you see the suburbs merge together and become the city. And the higher you go, you see the city becoming the country that you live within. And the higher you go, you start to see the earth become smaller and smaller as well. And we move up and up. And as we move upwards, away from the earth, we move up the frequencies as well. So moving up the frequencies beyond the physical. So we start to leave the physical universe behind. We see the earth disappear beneath our feet, then the solar system, then the local galaxy, then the full galaxy, and then all of the galaxies within the physical universe, within those first three frequencies associated with it. And then we move the frequencies, other aspects of the physical universe wink into existence and then out of existence as we move through the frequencies associated with it that are a higher function of the physical universe and therefore not visible to our naked eye. We then move up the frequencies further, past level 10, 15, 25, 35, 60, 80, 100. We keep going, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, right to the top, 408. The top frequency associated with the multiverse created by our source entity, our God. So we find ourselves on the outer edge of the multiverse. The multiverse being created by our source as an opportunity to evolve through experience. It created us as smaller individualized units of itself to work on ourselves, to experience that which is part of the source entity, that is part of and created through this multiversal environment that we use. So as you sit on top of this top frequency, the multiverse appears to be a sphere within a sphere. The sphere that it is within is the source entity itself. And as we look down, we start to see or perceive some other structure associated with the multiverse. You might see red lines. You might catch glimpses of different environments that overlaid upon each other, all existing within the same space, but all separate and all simultaneous. And now we can, whilst on the outer edge of this multiverse, communicate with the source and ask it to commune with us. So as we are where we are, we can see the inner edge of the periphery of the energy that is the source entity. And as we seek communion together, whilst working in concert together, the source recognises our need to commune and sends down an energy link, an umbilical, a large silver cord if you want to, that comes down from its inner edge towards ourselves as we sit on the outer periphery of the multiverse that we exist, experience, learn, evolve and progress within. So this energy surrounds us, engulfs us. This energy that we know is us, but we are separate from in personality. But we're not separate from energetically because we are still part of the source, even though we are separate. We are separately together. This energy from the source, this tornado of energy coming down from this inner edge of itself, engulfs us, permeates through us. Energy courses through us and we become one with the source, as the source is one with us. We can see the swirling energies within and without us, throughout that which we are, on every level, not just the physical. It moves up, it moves down, it moves left, it moves right. It moves in different angles. Feel it pulsating through us. And whilst we're in intimate energetic communion with the source, you may ask it to give you a sign or a message or word of advice or a feeling or an emotion that you can work with in your incarnate existence, that you've got as a little nugget of diamond that will help you to work with your daily material existence in the best way possible without getting caught up in the attractivity to certain experiences or stimulations within the physical. Source communicates through to you with great ease and great delight as it recognises that one of its incarnate entities has managed to project its consciousness up to the top frequency level within its multiverse, whilst still incarnate. This is progression indeed, and deserves communion in response. So the source permeating through you, within you, without you, around you and all over you, and in the centre of you, gives you a message, personal message you can work with and allow you to move forwards with confidence with. So accept and absorb this knowledge in whichever way it's presented to you. It will be relevant to something that you're working with right now, and that it will help you out in how you respond to that which you're working with now, making it an easy win. No need to struggle. Seamless response, requiring no hard work and no opportunity for gaining karma for misinterpretation. So for a moment, just bask in its energy, this love, this desire to be one with the source, and remember the state, bliss state or joy state that you're in as you are part of the source through the energetic link, this umbilical that is permeating through and around you. You are one with the source, and the source is one with you, and all things material fade away into the distance. So now, having received your message in whatever format it's given to you, it could be a feeling, could be a thought, could be an image, could be spoken word, could be a scent of some sort, could be just cosmic knowledge. Start to retract your intention to be part of the source, and the source retracts from your physicality and your spiritual physicality and your energetic content. The energy removes itself from you, no longer permeates through you or is part of you. This is a separate tornado type umbilical which moves back into the inner surface of the outer periphery of the source. As a result of this communication, you feel charged, you feel joyful, you feel content. So now move back down. Allow yourself to sink through that outer edge that represents the 408th frequency, this top end of the multiverse, and you start to sink down through the frequencies. Going from 408 to 400, down to 350, past 300, past 250 and 200, coming down to a reasonable speed, past 150 and then 100. Moving down past 50 and then 40, then 30 and 20 and 10, and then you find yourself back in the room, this white room, sitting next to me with either your left hand taking my right hand or your right hand taking my left hand. And now you can disconnect from me and slowly stand up. Move your way through to the doorway that was the entrance to this room, and when you're ready you can come back into the room in whichever location in the world that you're in. Okay, how do you all feel with that? Now I don't want to know what your messages are, they're yours. They're yours to keep and work with. Okay. You all okay? Who feels a bit spaced out? No. No response, so you're all spaced out. Good.
I got a lot of vibrations in my eyes, guys, like muscle traction.
Good. Good. No, that's good. The body reacts in different ways to these frequencies and these energies. So, you know, you get tingling, you get visual processes, you can get clairaudience, tinnitus, colours in the eyes, sort of the images as well, scent as well, heat. You can get all those sort of things.
I got my answers too.
Good, good. Marnie said spaced out. Thank you, Marnie. Matthias said fantastic. Thank you, Matthias. So, okay, based upon that, and the fact that we're now 10 minutes over our normal time, I think we'll wrap up there. Thank you very much for dialing in. The next session is going to be, if I get my diary up, around about the same time next month, around about the 25th, 24th, 25th. Let me look at the calendar actually, to see where we are there. Oops. So a quick look at the calendar. So it'll be around, let's have a look, June. It'll be the 29th of June, the next one. So it's a bit further out than 25. And I'll give you an email indicating what the subject matter is when we get to it. Okay, so thank you all for joining in, and I wish you a good morning or a good evening, and thank you very much.
Guy?
Yes, Jane, yeah.
The day I've got it down is the 22nd.
22nd?
Yeah, because it's, yeah.
Okay.
4 weeks.
It's 4 weeks, is it 22nd?
Mm-hmm.
Right from there. Okay, 22nd then, that's fine. 22nd. I'll send the email out anyway. So 22nd it is then. Jane's always right. So we'll look at the 22nd then. Excellent. Okay. So, based upon that, thank you all again for joining in, and I'll send an email out indicating the next date and time for the next Satsanga. Thank you, everybody.
Namaste.
Cheers. Namaste and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Did you see the aliens in Crete?